Here's your report.
Thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire a whole team of yous.
Try posting a job on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network. Unlike resumes, LinkedIn gives a real-time view into a candidate's skills, experiences, and more.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Find your perfect match with LinkedIn. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
British Spy Stories Season 4 Double Agent Episode 9. The taxi sweeps into the access road, in front of the Friedrich Andersen headquarters, in central Frankfurt, and Amandine walks rapidly in through security, without pausing to acknowledge any of the staff. The lift seems to stop on every floor, before she reaches the director's suite. The smell of paint still lingers from the redecoration after the fire, but she barely notices it. In her corner office, Lana, her Frankfurt assistant, has already sorted out her papers and diary for the day and busies herself around her boss when she arrives. A shorter-than-average man in his 40s walks in from the corridor almost immediately. He has blonde hair cut short and a ginger beard. His dark-rimmed glasses make him look like a schoolteacher.
Amandine, you wanted an urgent chat?
He briefly looks at the assistant. "Thank you, Lana," she says to the young woman, who walks away and shuts the door on her way out. "Oh, no. There was a serious security incident while I was in Zurich." He watches her. "I was on the lake and was attacked."
"What happened?"
"A boat came up and shots were fired," she says, and she looks at his face to get acknowledgement of the horror of the event. But he gives her none. "As my director of security, I want you to find out who it was."
"What did the police say?"
"I haven't told them," she says. She looks directly at him. "I thought it would be better to be discreet. You have personal contacts in the Zurich Police Department, don't you?" He nods.
"And they're best placed to find the culprits, Amandine. I'll let them get on with their job, but I can keep across it."
"I think we need to be more proactive than that, Arno."
"We can't do anything ourselves,"
he says, opening his eyes wider. "They wanted me dead. We need to find out who it was." Arno Webel is calm.
"Like I said, I'll make contact."
"I'm getting concerned." Her voice builds. "We've had 2 incidents now. The shooting and the fire."
"The fire was faulty wiring, Amandine. These things happen."
She takes a sharp breath out and ignores his words. "There are some large and sensitive loan deals coming up. I don't want all these security issues to undermine those."
"I think you're worrying unnecessarily."
He smiles benignly. "I'll expect you to report back to me once you've talked to the police. Thank you, Arno." She starts reading a document on her desk to indicate it's time for him to leave. There's a pause, and he wonders if he should say any more, then turns on his heel. He walks to his own office, slamming the door after him. He pulls out his mobile phone and stabs at the screen to find a stored number, and he looks out across the city and the grey slab of sky above him.
"Oscar, it's Arno."
"You sound angry," says Zetkin, at the other end of the line.
"I'm getting sick of this bloody Lacroix woman, treating me like shit."
"It won't be long now, Arno."
"We said 6 months to get rid of her. I need it to be sooner than that."
"I'm working on it," says Zetkin.
"And what's this about a shooting on the lake? Did you hear about it?"
"I was with her, Arno. It was an unmarked boat," says Zetkin. "Came out of nowhere."
"Who on earth was it?"
"I have some local issues in Zurich. It was a competitor." For the first time, Zetkin sounds defensive. but I already have sent out orders to deal with the guy.
We can't have your local issues getting in the way of our plans.
They won't.
Anyway, we need to move more quickly. She's starting to be suspicious,
says Arno.
If it all unravels, it's every man for himself.
Is that a threat? Zetkin's voice is icy.
I'm just saying there's a risk.
We'll go as fast as we can, Arno. I'm not going to damage my current businesses for the sake of this new one. But there's no need to be concerned. I have a long list of groups who need funding for arms. If this deal comes off, we'll make millions. The doorman at the Coquettes nightclub in Shoreditch, London, knows Sylvia. His mother was one of her school friends at Rodine, the private girls' school on the south coast of England, near Brighton, that they had both attended. Sylvia takes Becky's hand and leads her to one of the many bars in the place. They order spicy margaritas and sit on tall stools. They talk about music, drinking, and men, because they feel they should on a night out.
I'm worried about that message we found on Gavin's phone, says Becky. He's never mentioned anyone called Rose to me. You need to stop making your world revolve around him.
Sylvia's eyes are full of excitement.
If I thought that Charlie was going to provide everything for me, I'd constantly be disappointed.
After another round of drinks, Sylvia convinces Becky that they came to dance, especially as the DJ is playing her favourite song. They stay on the floor for 3 tracks and return to their drinks, but their seats have been taken and they wander about to look for somewhere else to sit. A man catches Sylvia's eye as they are searching and plays out a mime of moving up to let them sit near him. He tells them that he's in London on business, but only for tonight. They chat easily, and he buys them more drinks. When he returns from the bar, he sits next to Becky and talks more to her than Sylvia. But there's another guy on the seating, so Sylvia talks to him. After that, they tend to split into 2 couples as they chat. When the man asks Becky to dance, she says yes, and Sylvia makes a wide-eyed smile at her friend as she gets up. Becky is enjoying herself. Sylvia was right. A night out to let her hair down is making her feel happy and forget all about that Rose woman. The evening passes, and the group chat and drink and dance some more. By the time it is 1 in the morning, Becky starts to want to go home. The women walk over to collect their coats, and the man who's been talking to Becky is there, waiting near the cloakroom. "Look, I don't normally do this," he says. "But do you want to come back to my hotel?" She feels younger for a moment. It reminds her of her 20s. "Thank you," she says. "But I'm fine." She smiles at him. "How about a kiss then?" She leans towards him and they kiss. Then she kisses him again, more passionately, but then pulls back. "Thank you for a lovely evening." "You want to give me your number?" he says, but she shakes her head. "This was a one-off. I've had a great time, though. It was just an escape." He smiles and nods his acknowledgement. "Let me put my number in your phone, then, in case you change your mind." She pauses, then hands him her phone, and he types into the screen. "I don't even know your name," she says, as he hands it back to her. "It's Leo," he says. "Then, good night, Leo." She turns to Sylvia, who has been waiting for them to say their goodbyes. The 2 women intertwine their arms and walk out. In the security room, a police inspector has been watching the CCTV cameras in the club. "I need a copy of that last 10 minutes, please," he says to the security guard, who's been working the CCTV console. He turns to his sergeant. "I don't know who that woman is, but if she's an associate of Leo Haas, we need a full profile on her." "Yes, Gov." Even though the concrete that Kate is lying on is cold, she still feels comfortable. From this vantage point on the top floor of one of the service buildings at the edge of Zurich Airport, she has a clear view over the entire parking lot. She knows which car belongs to her target, because when she arrived at the airport this morning, in the dark, she had taken a walk around the car park and identified the vehicle. She looks through the sight of the L96A1 rifle in front of her and scans the routes that people are taking as they walk back from the terminal buildings to the parking. The paperwork for this MI6 kill order had arrived yesterday. The process is always the same. A name comes through and she's expected to end their life. The man who will be dead in a few minutes, Leo Haas, was a small-time drug dealer until 3 years ago. He'd been recruited by dealers around Zurich when he was still in his early 20s. For years, Haas had been happy just making a little bit of extra cash to help pay his bills. He had set up his own electronics business and, at first, it had gone very well. But, after a series of mistakes, his MI6 file shows that he had decided to switch the balance of his income to be drug dealing. Haas quickly buffeted up against the established criminals in the area, the people who he had been working for up to that point. There are reports on Oberon about a rising tension within the criminal fraternity and clashes that became increasingly violent. Haas developed a reputation for not shying away from using aggression to make his presence felt. But the change that had brought him into the crosshairs of MI6 was his shift into arms dealing. For the past year, he has brought in vast quantities of handguns and rifles to Europe and traded them on. His clients are scattered across numerous potential flashpoints, and he is fueling the tensions. Last week, at the secret committee N19, on a corridor on the second floor of the Foreign Office, the kill order was approved, and here she is, waiting for Haas to appear. Kate checks the time. His flight touched down 5 minutes ago. She leans into the rifle and moves her muscles, so the weapon feels like it's part of her. In the telescopic sight, she can see passengers appearing around the corner of the path. Her breath slows, and her finger rests on the trigger. She can feel a very slight breeze on her cheek. Kate is utterly still. At the edge of the sight's field of view, Haas appears, around the corner of the buildings. She takes a breath in, then slowly out again. He has a wheeled suitcase. He is wearing a dark woolen hat and a scarf around his neck. His grey overcoat is open. Haas's car is near the entrance, and he reaches it after only 10 seconds. Kate watches him open the boot and put his suitcase inside. In her head, for less than a second, she has flashes of his life, his childhood, college days, and marriage. She closes her eyes momentarily. He is walking to the car door. The skin on her trigger finger turns slightly white across the knuckle as she squeezes against the metal. After the first bullet hits him, Leo stands perfectly still, frozen in time. It's the second bullet that makes him fall, and the blood splatter across the paintwork of his car. She doesn't need to double-check. She knows he's dead already. Kate rolls over and jumps up. She takes the rifle and throws it over her shoulder, then runs to the staircase at the back of the building. As she descends the steps, she pulls up her face mask to her eyeline and pulls her hat down, leaving only a narrow gap to see through. Her Jaguar is parked out of sight behind the service building. MI6 Tech Branch adapted the boot to carry her rifle in a long case that runs down the side of the bulkhead. She unlatches the cover and slides the gun into place, then slams the boot shut, runs around to the driver's seat, and turns the key. Her driving route passes along the edge of the car park. She gets a half-second view of a crowd gathering around the body as she speeds by in the distance. Kate had recce'd the airport site as part of the planning for this job, and she initially heads for the main entrance, but swings off onto an access road and pushes the Jaguar to 70 miles an hour along the fence line. There's a delivery entrance up ahead with a metal barrier across the road. Kate flicks one of the switches in front of her, and the number plates on the car go blank. Word about the shooting must have reached the guard on this gate, as he stands in the roadway and raises his arm for her to stop when she is within 50 yards of the exit. She slows down very slightly to put him at his ease, then opens up the engine. He only just jumps out of the way before she pushes the car up onto a grass bank to one side of the gate at speed. The Jag lifts off the ground and only just misses the top of the gate, then lands on the other side. For a second, she loses control. The car swerves hard to the left, and she has to use the strength in her arms to correct the course. Behind her, the guard has drawn his handgun. A shot rings out, but it's nowhere near her. Kate slams down her foot, and the Jaguar roars away from the guard, and further away from the corpse of Leo Haas.